But again, the spot that is the most concerning right now is the Sampson area. And I don't think that loss of correlation coefficient value and the area of rotation line up with each other. So I don't think at this point that there's a tornado causing damage, at least from what I can see on radar right now. But there is a tornado warned storm. The Sampson area is the spot that's going to be getting the brunt of it right here within a couple of minutes. Here you go. It just moved over the city itself. So it is crossing over. Sampson is going to move to the eastern side. So if you are west of the city in Geneva, if you are west of Sampson, your severe weather threat with this specific storm, of course, is going down. But those that are in Sampson and points to the east. Again, south of Coffee Springs and in Coffee Springs itself, that's going to be one of those locations that you need to be heading toward your safe place. We just got an update from the National Weather Service, so we're going to see if there's anything additional that they're saying right now. But okay, yeah, so they're just talking about the tornado warning. No additional update at this point. Again, we've gone live here at WDHN for a tornado warned storm. Those that might just now be tuning in, it is in Geneva County. There aren't any other storms outside of this one that are tornado warned. This is the only one, the only warning, the only area of concern along this line. Those that are in Enterprise, just south of you is the warning. I don't quite think it's actually going to make its way to Enterprise by any means. That's why you're not included in it. But portions of Dale as well as Coffee County are included in this warning because it does have a slight northeasterly track to it. That's why the southern edge of this warning is perfectly horizontal, but then the northern portion is a little bit diagonal. So it's going to be moving kind of in this, here we go, this direction right here. So it's going to be moving in about this kind of direction toward the Coffee Springs area by about just before 4:45. Sometime between 4:40 and 4:45, it would expect it to be there. Clay-Hatchie by just about 5 o'clock, same thing in the Hartford area if it manages to stay a little bit more eastward, but I do think it's going to take more of an east-northeasterly trek toward the Houston County Panhandle and toward the far southern portions of Dale County. So again, this is definitely one to watch because over the past 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, this thing has been slowly wrapping up and that area of circulation becoming tighter and tighter. Originally, it was just gusty winds of about 40 to 50 miles per hour in the Florala areas where we saw those gusty winds of 45 miles per hour. But now it has tightened up, and we have noticed, of course, that tightening continuing to strengthen right over, and I keep saying it again and again, Sampson. If you are in the Sampson area, you have got to be in your safe place right now because while it's not the tightest rotation we've seen before, it's definitely getting that look to it, no doubt about it. So let's talk about some additional roads. Those that are along Coffee Springs Road, Sellersville, be in your safe place. Mount Carmel, good idea to be in your safe place too. Actually looks like this has broadened out a little bit, but those that are in Coffee Springs, I want you to be in your safe place because again, this storm is moving kind of like this. It's not moving south, but it is moving east and northeasterly. It's going to be heading toward, and I can't see that quite yet, but that is County Road or Highway, State Highway 27. So State Highway 27 going right through the heart of Geneva County. Those that are especially to the west of that, you guys need to be in your safe place right now too. So those that are in Sampson now, no longer a severe weather threat for you all, but those that are east of Sampson and going toward Coffee Springs, you all need to be in your safe place for this specific storm. Like I said, it has broadened some. It's not quite as tight. So over the past 15 minutes, it was tightening. Now it has broadened up a little bit. It looks more like a damaging wind situation, and we'll see if we can get an update from the National Weather Service here in just a second. But the spot that would be most likely to be a tornado or a potential tornado would be near Sellersville, just south of Spears and north of Morrow. So right here in this area is going to be the spot where there could potentially be a tornado. Let's take another look at our debris detector and see if we can see any debris. Yeah, we don't see any loss of debris, so it doesn't look like a tornado has been lofting things up in the air. It doesn't mean that it hasn't touched down, but if there has been a tornado, it's not necessarily one that's been strong enough to loft things in the air, and we haven't seen any loss of correlation coefficient or detecting any debris right now. So that's some really good news that we'll take. Let's take another look at a different radar. And you know what, you just don't, if you take a look from the Panama City radar, which we were looking at a couple minutes ago, that one really showed a good signature. But from the Dothan Regional, or the one in Echo in Daleville, we don't quite see as much rotation. So sometimes you use different radar scans to see the full picture of the storm. And when we take a larger look at the overall storm, we don't quite see as much rotation here. So that's again a little bit more good news. And we're going to take a look at the overall radar scans here, and just to show everybody that that is the only storm that is warned right now. And I'll put it into motion for you while I go check what the National Weather Service has to say at this point. But again, that is the only storm that is warned right now. It has a severe thunderstorm warning on it, as well as a tornado warning. And they agree at the National Weather Service that that couplet is weakening on the last velocity scan. So as long as that trend continues, they may actually expire this warning a little bit early. But I do expect, I honestly wouldn't doubt that they do that, because sometimes with a system that's as weak as this one that's been moving through, it's been much weaker than what we were expecting yesterday. With a system that's moving this week, sometimes you get very brief couplets, but they don't last too long. There was one that was over in southwest Alabama, closer to Mobile, in the St. Elmo area. They had some damage reported there. They said it may have been a tornado or possibly straight line winds. They haven't determined that just yet, but that's been the only other area throughout Alabama or even the Florida Panhandle that's actually reported any sort of damage. So this system has been much weaker, and I think it's going to stay on the weaker side through the rest of the evening hours. But again, tornado warned portion of this line is in Geneva County and barely eclipses a portion of Coffee County as well as Dale County. And if it makes it into one of those two, more likely it would be in Dale County heading toward Clay-Hatchie. But here is your bit of a hook. There's not much there, but just to the east of Sampson now, this is kind of what it's trying to develop a hook. But just like the National Weather Service said, and I mentioned a couple minutes ago, I do think that this storm is on a weakening trend. Doesn't mean it can't revamp back up. There's a lot of untapped potential here where our temperatures are significantly warmer, our dew points are a little bit higher, the winds are still out of the right direction to create the proper environment for a tornado. It's just not the best conditions that we've ever seen for a tornadic environment. So I do think that the storm is running into untapped energy where we haven't had a whole lot of rain and stormy conditions throughout the day. But it's not a ton of energy. So there is potential, but that potential is low for this thing to revamp and re-strengthen. But at this point, it does look like it is weakening quite a bit based on the past couple of velocity scans. Let's take another look from Panama City. That was the one that was giving us a better, more likely signature of a tornado earlier, and you see it in the northern portion of Coffee County. Just like we mentioned, it's heading toward or just south of Coffee Springs. So that's going to be the spot where we have our most likely potential of rotation, a potential tornado moving over an area in in Geneva County is in the Coffee Springs area. And I think I misspoke earlier. Again, this is Geneva County where the rotation is right now, and it's heading toward State Highway 27 North. Again, this is right along and west of Coffee Springs is where those that need to be in their safe place. You need to be in your safe place right now if you're in Coffee Springs or especially south of it. Even those that are on the northern edge of town, you should be in your safe place as well, because this is a scan that's a little bit higher in the atmosphere. It doesn't show exactly what's happening at the surface, and tornadoes don't always drop just in one vertical position. So it can move a little bit here. But right here from Coffee Springs Road all the way down to Long Branch Road, you guys are the ones that have the most likelihood for a potential tornado at this point. Let's take another look at our debris signature here and see if we have anything additional. Again, this is a loss of signature that isn't co-located with the velocity couplet, so that means that it's a bit of a bad feed. It's not coming back properly to the radar. So this is not things that are being lofted in the air. Highly, highly unlikely, because they're not co-located in the exact same spot. Go to Dothan Regional, at Echo, and check out the storm. This looks like this scan is a little bit further behind than the other ones. You see these deep, dark purples in here? That's going to indicate extremely heavy rain. So even if there is rotation, if there's a funnel or a tornado on the ground, you're not going to be able to see it either way. Just trust us with this one that the best thing that you can do in the Coffee Springs area and points to the south is just be in your safe place. If you're a little bit closer to Geneva itself, in the heart of Geneva County, you're not in this tornado warning. There is no threat for you by any means. So those that are further down the line, let's say Hartford, I don't think it's going to make it to you guys. I do think it's going to stay well north. But just outside of the warning is Clay-Hatchie in Dale County. I think that there is a possibility that this area of rotation makes it through Coffee Springs and heads up to the Clayhatchee area. So if you're in between those two cities, it's a good idea to know where your safe place is, that innermost room, the room that's usually a bathroom or a closet. Sometimes it's even a pantry. It's away from exterior windows. Go ahead, head in there. We're live on Facebook Live. I think that's a good idea to just stay there for the next probably 10 to 15 minutes or so. This warning goes out until 5 o'clock Central Time, so right to the beginning of our show time here at WDHN this evening. So that's how long the warning currently goes out. They just gave a new update, so we'll see if they have determined anything different there. But for those in Geneva County, the threat is for you all. They're continuing the tornado warning. They just cut back the western edge of it. And it's moving east at 50 miles per hour. So this is a pretty quick mover. Oftentimes we see with lines like this, we see storms moving about 35 to 40 miles per hour, but this one's moving at 50 according to them. And notice how they cut back that far western portion of it. Sampson, no longer a threat for you guys. Anybody that's just around the Sampson area, no longer a threat for you. It's those that are in Coffee Springs and up toward Clayhatchee where this storm is going to head toward. And so let me do that for you right here. So yeah, again, there's some smaller communities within here. Let's zoom in on some of those actually, and we will take this off. There we go. All right, so we're going to zoom in on some of our smaller county or communities within Geneva County. Chancellor, Scranton, you guys are within the path of this potential tornado. We just got a latest update, so let's see what it looks like on velocity. And the red and the green are still touching, but they're not quite wrapping around each other. So they're still definitely touching each other. It's still an area of concern, an area of rotation, but it's not super strong. So again, it's right over Coffee Springs, just like we mentioned, moving across State Highway 27. If you live on either side of State Highway 27, you're probably hearing some rumbles of thunder, and you're probably hearing very heavy rain, as well as the wind starting to pick up quite a bit. I would be in your safe place if I were you. It's going to be moving toward Campbell Hill Road or along it, and County Road 48 as well, I believe is what that is. So right between those areas is an area of rotation, and I expect and hope that you guys would take it seriously and go to your safe place, that innermost room away from the windows. It's not a situation necessarily what I would say hop into the bathtub and put a mattress on top of you. It's not one of those. This is not a definite tornado on the ground. This is a area of rotation indicated by radar. And so that's what we use first, and then we use that velocity couplet to determine whether or not a warning should be put out, and then we'll use confirmation of our debris signature. And I'll show you, I've mentioned it a couple times here already, no debris has been co-located within that area of rotation. So if we were to expect to see something like this, it should be right here, but it's not. It's a little bit further away, so it's a bad feed that's coming back to the radar. So it does not look like there is a tornado on the ground at this point causing damage and lofting things in the air. So again, it's crossing over State Highway 27 right through the middle of Geneva County, and it's going to be continuing an eastward progression at 50 miles an hour. So a pretty quick mover that will eventually probably clip the far southern portion of Dale County and into the panhandle of Houston County if this thing manages to hold together. We just got a latest scan there, and it doesn't really look like it has changed all that much. It's basically relatively in the exact same location now, just on the eastern side of State Highway 27. So County Road 40, I said 48 earlier, I meant 40, and Campbell Hill Road, those are the two spots where this area of rotation is moving toward, just south or in the city of Chancellor, or community of Chancellor, crossing over Highway 85 now. So those that are along Highway 85, it's your time to make sure that you're in your safe place. You've only got about another minute or so before this thing gets there. But Highway 85 and Bellwood area is an area, not Highway 85 all the way down to, say, Geneva. It's Highway 85 in the Bellwood area where we would have this potential, or this area of rotation and a potential tornado. Scranton, this is going to be just south of you guys, be in your safe place. Chancellor as well, just passing you guys at this point. So be in your safe place too. Again, this warning goes out until 5 o'clock, but I'm trying to give updates for those that can get out of their safe place. At this point, Coffee Springs, Center Ridge, those that are over in Mount Carmel and Spears, you guys no longer have a tornado threat in your area. It's already to the east of you, and it's heading east-northeast. So no longer a threat for those that are to the east of to the west of Highway 27. So once this storm gets east of you, your severe weather threat goes basically to zero for the rest of the day because the cold front's going to catch up very quickly on the backside of this thing. Outside of the area of rotation, some of the winds have been gusting, like say in southern Coffee County, gusting upwards of about 40 miles per hour at times. I'm not expecting significant amount of severe thunderstorm warnings through the rest of this evening. This is probably going to be the main event for the day, is this singular warning that we've had, or this singular tornado warning that we've had, and then the severe thunderstorm warning. They put that out originally primarily because of the threat for a potential tornado. So the damaging wind gusts didn't actually meet criteria. It was only about 50 miles per hour within the storm, but there was an area of circulation that they wanted to warn for just in case they needed to put a tornado warning on it, but they weren't quite confident yet. So that's why they put out the severe thunderstorm warning first. Now they put out the tornado warning on this thing. It is well to the east of Coffee Springs. So I've said it already, but Coffee Springs, you guys are in the clear for this tornado warned storm. You guys can come out of your safe place. Those that are in the Bellwood community along 87, you guys need to be, or 85 I should say, you guys need to be in your safe place. Those that are up toward Clay-Hatchie, this may stay just south of you, but High Bluff, this could move directly into your area there. So again, High Bluff as well as Bellwood, you guys are the ones that are up next for this specific location of the area of rotation. Nothing additional from the National Weather Service right now. And they're saying that the area of rotation may be getting occluded in the rain-cooled air. So this would increase the possibility of decrease the possibility of a tornado, but they're going to allow the warning to continue. But if it's running into much cooler air, then that's going to decrease the possibility of a tornado to form. So again, we haven't really had storms in this portion of the Wiregrass today, so there's still untapped potential there, but they're saying that it's occluding, so the storm's getting cold air to wrap back up into it, and that would definitely kill the ability of this storm to actually create its tornado. So let's take a look at velocity. Very heavy rain with this thing. Lots of deep reds and the dark purples as well from Enterprise all the way down just to the west of Geneva. Extremely heavy torrential rain. So obviously I would advise staying off the roads. Those that are in the tornado warning, I would advise that you be inside, especially for those in Bellwood, High Bluff, and up toward Clay-Hatchie as well. Newest scan there just came in. So let's take a look at our velocity. And here's the area of potential rotation. It's still very broad. So we want to see those winds wrapping around themselves if there is a tornado. If there's a potential tornado, those winds really start to wrap and dig in. But it's just not quite happening here. They're just kind of side by side with each other, and you don't see them brightening up. They're still a pretty dull red and dull green, but once you get brighter greens that turn almost into blue, and you get brighter reds that become more of a pink and then eventually a tan, that's where you're going to see a higher chance and higher likelihood of a tornado to be forming. But in the Bellwood community and points south for you guys along Highway 85, we want you all to be in your safe place because of this potential area of rotation. It's intact enough, according to the National Weather Service, to keep this tornado warning going. And they're saying that there's a tiny reflectivity nub on the line which nudges toward keeping that warning going. So they're really right on the edge of whether or not they're going to allow this to expire or if they're going to keep this thing going. So they're going to err on the side of caution by allowing this warning to continue. The reflectivity nub that they're talking about here is going to be right about here. So that's what they're talking about there. They can kind of see a bit of the storm pushing out from the main line, and it's just a tiny piece. It's not much, but that's sometimes all that you need in order to indicate that there's a portion of the storm pushing out ahead of another portion and then coming back in. So this would be the spot crossing over Highway 85 south of Bellwood right now that we would expect the highest potential for the tornado to form. We just got a newer scan that came in. Again, it is south of Bellwood, heading toward High Bluffs. We're staying just south of them. High Falls, you guys are going to be on the southern edge of this. I do suggest that you get into your safe place as well. Let's go a little bit further down the line. County Road 36, I believe, is what that is. You guys want to be in your safe place right now because, again, this storm is moving basically straight over County Road 36 toward State Highway 367, or 167, excuse me. So State Highway 167, County Road 36, that intersection there is going to be an important intersection for this area of rotation. Again, I'm not calling it a tornado right now because I haven't seen any confirmation from radar or from National Weather Service, no reports from EMA directors that there is a tornado on the ground. Oftentimes in a situation like this, if there is a tornado, by this point, we will have gotten some sort of confirmation from either an EMA director, some local law enforcement officials or fire departments, or from the National Weather Service getting those reports themselves. So. And again, oftentimes our radar will have picked up on some sort of debris being lofted, and we have not seen that so far over the past 15 minutes. So here is the area of rotation that we were watching. It's even broader. Yes, there's red and green touching each other, but it's even broader than before. So it just doesn't quite look like there any significant tornadic look to this one. But as long as it is still tornado warning, we got to stay on this thing, and they're going to continue it. It's now moving east at 40 miles per hour. They have canceled that warning for Coffee County. So like I said, I didn't expect it to quite make it all the way up to Coffee County. Those that are in Coffee County, you guys are totally in the clear for this area of circulation, and that's why they wanted to update that and tell you guys, hey, nobody in Coffee County is under any sort of threat with this storm. So you see the box, how it cuts right here. That's Coffee County, Central City, Center Ridge area. That area is no longer underneath this tornado warning. They have left it up for the far southern portion of Dale County, but I think it'll skirt just by you guys. And with this latest scan, the velocity couplet, even weaker, almost non-existent at this point from the Panama City radar. Let's see what it looks like from our Dothan radar. Even weaker on this one. So, and I think it's safe to say that our area of rotation has weakened significantly here. It took about 15 minutes to ramp up. Now it's taken about 15 minutes to start to die down a little bit. And we're not seeing any additional, not getting any sort of significant hint of a tornadic storm within this line. So it is kind of a Boeing segment. This is where we get our stronger winds, is when a line starts to push out ahead of the rest of the line. And as it's doing so, and I'll stand on this side and demonstrate that for you. Basically, if it were all one line, it would go straight like this. But because this portion is pushing out ahead of it, that's going to be the area with the strongest winds. And that's why we have this severe thunderstorm warning for this specific area. But we also have the tornado warning because there was a very small velocity couplet within there that was strengthening for about 4 or 5 scans. Now, over the past 4 or 5 scans, it has been weakening. So we will continue monitoring this one. Obviously, we'll stay on TV as long as this warning is out here. But at this point, we're going to have our reporters check and see if there is any threat or, any indication that a tornado has been on the ground, damage reports, things like that. And we'll get that out there to the National Weather Service and give the official reports to them. But there hasn't been any inkling that that has happened so far. 5:15 is how long this severe thunderstorm warning goes out until. That's because the warning goes a little bit further east than the tornado warning. Slocum area is underneath this severe thunderstorm. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on that too. So again, no additional updates from National Weather Service right now. I'm going to show you guys the overall picture of what this line of storms looks like. And so we'll go to our home setting here. And this is the line. Again, within it, you had this small Boeing segment. Most of the rest of these, it's all a straight line. This was a small Boeing segment, and that's where the strongest winds were, upwards of probably about 50 miles per hour at times. Florala reported a 44 mile per hour wind gust at one point as it was moving through there. I don't know if we have any ASOS stations within this within Geneva County, but if we do, the National Weather Service would give us reports on just how strong those winds have been so far. Notice the deep purples in here. Again, it's extremely heavy rainfall. So this is a strong storm, no doubt about it. But I no longer think that it is a tornadic storm at this point. The warning goes out until 5 o'clock. We've got another 7 minutes on it, so we're going to stay with it. It's going to bleed right into showtime unless they decide to cancel this thing early, or if it passes across that tornado warning early and they decide to cancel it at that point. So I do think that it's weakened enough that I wouldn't be surprised if you see this red box go away at any point and the National Weather Service says, hey, we don't believe that there's a tornado threat within this storm any longer. South of Clayhatchee, well south, I do not believe that there is any threat within Clayhatchee at this point. And you don't see those greens and the reds even touching anymore. So they're not even wrapping around each other, and they're not even touching at this point either. Okay, so they may have updated this and decided to extend it until 5:15. And, oh, excuse me, the original severe thunderstorm warning, they'll carry that on until 5:15. But for the tornado warning, they're going to let it go for at least the next few minutes. Yeah, so they may expire in the next few minutes, a little bit earlier than expected. And just because that rotation, as we mentioned, has definitely gone away. Hartford area, you're still inside the warning, but I don't expect you guys to have any sort of tornado threat right now. We're getting a lot of updates from the National Weather Service, so they may have something to be said. And Jordan, let me know, are they saying anything about damage, or is it just updates on the warning? Okay. So again, they're going to give this another few minutes, and there doesn't seem to be extreme concern from the National Weather Service of tornadic circulation. I'm not seeing any right now either. Let's take a look from a different radar. We'll go from the one in Echo, and you don't see any sort of red here. So it doesn't look like there's anything. There's winds moving toward the radar, but not away from the radar. And you need both. You need winds moving toward and away. You don't see anything moving away from the radar at this point, so it's all moving unidirectional. And at that point, it's just straight line winds coming out of the storm, probably around 40 miles per hour or less in most spots. Highest wind gusts that I've seen so far today in Alabama is about 49 miles per hour. Even that doesn't meet severe criteria. You got to get up to 58. So most of these storms have been weaker than what we were thinking yesterday, but this one was strong enough to actually prompt a tornado warning because of an area of circulation that was over and just west of Sampson early on within our breaking coverage here. And now that it's gone further and further east through Geneva County, it has weakened continually and continually. But let's put this into motion and actually bring up our radar scans here and allow you guys just to see how things have been developing. Again, this is the line of storms that we were expecting, arrived right on time. About 3 o'clock is when it really started to ramp up here, and it's going to continue for probably another hour and a half to 2 hours maybe, and after that, things are going to start weakening, and you're going to see just steady rainfall on the backside of this thing with light to moderate rain possible. Let's check the newest update from the National Weather Service. And Ozark, Dothan airports now, they're saying that they now have a cool northwesterly wind, that this will severely limit the severe potential to the north. But they have to watch further east in Houston County from Dothan to point south, where the cold air has not yet arrived. So the cold front is catching up to this line of storms. And once that cold front moves in, the severe weather potential goes to absolute zero. So cold front moves in, severe weather done, or moves past you, severe weather is done at that point. But just ahead of the cold front, which is where you see all of these storms, that's where you have your severe weather potential. So I do think that this line is starting to weaken some, specifically the tornado warned portion. But those that are further south, they're still going to have much gustier winds, upwards of about 50 miles per hour at times. Don't be surprised if throughout our broadcast throughout the night, you see 1 or 2 more severe thunderstorm warnings pop up along this line. This may be one of about 2 that comes out for our area here in southeast Alabama. I can't necessarily put a number on how many warnings are expected to come out, but this is most likely going to be the only case that we see, because it was just strong enough for a short enough amount of time that they said, hey, we need to put a warning on this thing. And at this point, I don't have any indication that a tornado has actually dropped. Jordan, if you could check with our reporters and our digital folks, see if they've gotten any reports of damage from EMA. That would be awesome. This goes out for another couple of minutes. I'll check that. This goes out for another couple of minutes. It goes out until 5 o'clock technically, and then I think that they're going to let this thing expire. But the severe thunderstorm warning for winds upwards of 60 miles per hour at times, and no hail within these, but winds upwards of 60 miles per hour possible for those that are in Geneva County. And again, this heads is going to make its way toward the Dothan area. Let's check one more time, and looks like we're getting ready to go into our regular show time. So again, we're just going to let this bleed right in, guys. But we're going to zoom on into what was an area of rotation, but now just looks more like stronger winds. Clay-Hatchie area definitely experiencing the strong winds. You guys are outside of the warning, but this is where the storm is moving through. Hartford to Clay-Hatchie is where that potential area of rotation would be at this point, and we don't see anything there. Nothing definitive where it shows an area of rotation any longer. So it was definitive at one point. It was weak in nature, but it was definitive. Now there's nothing definitive, and it is exceptionally weak as it's moving in, at least from a rotation standpoint. But there's still potential damaging winds upwards of 60 miles per hour within this storm. So All right, so the latest update from National Weather Service, they're just saying that they are expiring the tornado warning, so no longer is anybody technically underneath a tornado warning here. I know you still see that red box, but they have officially expired it at the National Weather Service. That red box will go away right at 5 o'clock. But National Weather Service says that there's no longer any threat of tornado within this storm, that there is only a severe thunderstorm warning until 5:15. You can notice how these winds are all pushing in one direction, no longer pushing around each other. We're going to do a quick wrap up on this, and then we're going to start to go into the newscast. And Jordan, you can let me know if you get any updates from Glenn there and how we'd like to go through this. Or producer upstairs. But again, the damaging wind gusts probably, I'm going to say, are sub-severe at this point. There is a tag of 60-mile-per-hour winds with this. I haven't quite seen that, but don't be surprised if they put a new warning or a special weather statement from Daleville down all the way to Hartford. Newton would be included in that, and that would go for points east, probably toward 231 and 431. Dothan, Kinsey, Headland would be included within some sort of special weather statement that there are damaging winds, or excuse me, gusty winds of 40 miles per hour possible within that portion of the line of storms. We're still live on TV here, of course, because we are now in our regular newscast time at WDHN at 5 o'clock. So welcome to the show, everybody that's just now tuning in. Those that are in Dothan, there has been a tornado warned storm further off to the west of you guys, and we said that there was a potential, not a high one, but a potential that we could see a tornado today. While I don't think that we have officially seen one and that tornado warning has just gone away, I do think that there is the possibility to get some damaging wind gusts within this line. Of course, not every time that they put out a tornado warning is there a tornado within it, but it's saying that there is high potential that one could be forming here. So whenever there's a watch, that means that one could form within the next few hours. Whenever there's a warning, that means that one could form within the next few minutes. So tornado warning has officially expired. Severe thunderstorm warning still goes out until 5:15. Let's very quickly show you guys the overall area here within the Wiregrass. It is the only warned area, and that's in Geneva County, for a severe thunderstorm warning. Lots of heavy rain associated within this line. We're going to break all down the additional details and timing of these impacts right here as WDHN News at 5 starts now.